Good morning. It's 9 a.m., so I'd like to call the March 15th, 2016 City Council meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Deckent.
Here.
Inskeep.
Here.
Daveline.
Here.
Soldner.
Here.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This morning's prayer will be given by Gary Getting. Thank you, Gary.
Father in heaven, we just thank you for a beautiful day, for this time of the year. We could use a little rain. That'd be great if you'd give that to us. Lord, I thank you for those who serve us in our community in these chambers. I appreciate their willingness to serve and pray for wisdom and discernment here and discussions, decisions that are made. And also, Lord, I just lift to you those in our community who support us as first responders and just watch over us in that way, for your watchful eye over them as well today. Just pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communications from the audience.
Okay, this is the part of the meeting where we allow comments from the audience on items that are not on the agenda. So if you have something you'd like to bring before the council, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm going to read my article, as I am not a public speaker, and I don't want to forget anything that I've thought about. I've been thinking about this since Sunday, since I read the article in the paper
And
about,
could we have your name and address?
yes, about Ray Siebert's properties.
Oh, okay.
My name is Maxine Julian, and I live on Rambler Road. I am retired and a landlord. My livelihood is derived from my rentals. I am respectfully requesting the city repeal Ordinance 2015-11, the rental housing ordinance. I don't believe Ray Siebert made a decision to sell his properties solely because he was tired of getting up in the middle of the night to a puddle of water in the basement. I believe cost is a big factor. The amount of rental units he has at $25 per unit clearly speaks. I believe this registration fee is going to put a hardship on most landlords. Landlords in the Hutchinson community are competing with our own tax dollars through excessive amounts of low-cost rentals in the Hutchinson community. I believe low-cost rentals provided by the government compete with the landlord-provided properties. There aren't any landlords who can provide all of the amenities provided by tax dollars. The city's endorsement of the International Housing Code covers all properties, not just landlords, which most citizens are not aware. I do believe the code was enacted and directed at local landlords. Not only does the code affect landlords, tenants are having their rights invaded by unwelcome searches. There are many reasons I am against Ordinance 2015-11. Some are financial, but most importantly, the code erodes our Fourth Amendment rights, which states, "We are to be secure in our houses against unreasonable searches and shall not be violated." I believe Hutchinson officials, by passing the City Code Ordinance 2015-11, is forcing landlords to forfeit rights given to us by the Constitution of the United States. I resent this action, and I am respectfully asking that the city rescind Ordinance 2015-11. And as sour grapes, this code follows many of our rights being trampled on by our elected officials. Maxine Julian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there others in the audience who would like to address the council?
Hello, my name is Dean Sorensen. I own D&D Towing. I have been around to several businesses over the ordinance 2015-10, the storm water. First off, I would like to thank you for hearing the concerns of the business owners of Hutchinson. As I went around the business, I heard many concerns about the ordinance 2015-10. Most were bad. Most concerns are, where is the money going? It's very vague. There is nothing in the ordinance says how the money's gonna be spent or anything else. It's just extremely vague. Why is the stormwater drain fee more than my property taxes? That's one major concern. Why is the city even doing this? I don't use the stormwater drains. Why am I being charged for it? We're not even in the areas. The school systems are already stretched to their limit. Does this mean our kids get less education, or is another tax increase going to have to happen so they can pay the stormwater fees? Where did they get their formulas from? The people would like to know. Why are they trying to lower our property tax values, resale availability? When you buy a piece of property, you always ask, okay, what's the payment? What is the taxes? Now we've got to ask, how much stormwater drain do we have? Why should any place have $400, $500, $600 worth of stormwater drain when properties like my own doesn't even use the stormwater drains? My property's 10 inches lower than the stormwater drains. Just because I have a big roof doesn't mean that I should pay lots of money when the water stays on my personal property as it is. These are just a few of the concerns. We don't feel this ordinance thought out very carefully. This is not the time to overexpense the citizens and the business owners of Hutchinson, Kansas. Everybody is tight on funds, and adding extra expense to the community is a bad idea. Everyone is tightening their belt. This should include the city of Hutch. I spent a little bit of time watching the city council meetings that passed, and the one thing I noticed was not very often did I hear the council ever say, where's the money coming from? It's not in your meetings like today. It's just approved, yes or no. Do I feel that something needs to be done for the stormwater drains? Yes, I do. It is, but the citizens are concerned. What people are seeing now is short-term greed by the city, and it's very hard to have city pride when the city does not have pride in its citizens. There needs to be a better plan. So the revoking of this ordinance is a must until a better plan and utilization of the funds can be attained. And the citizens can vote yes or no, not the council. Remember, short-term greed usually results in long-term havoc. And we thank you very much for listening to this.
I appreciate your comments, and I just want to take a minute on that because I believe there's a pretty extensive public education campaign surrounding this, the stormwater utility fee, that included a committee made up of business owners at all levels. But regardless of that, people are busy running their companies, and there have been comments that this is a shock to some people. And I would also say that it was the exact opposite of short-term greed. It's really long-term vision, because the drainage issues in this town have been ignored for many years. I believe that the costs involved are calculated based on impervious area. And John, I didn't know if you or Dave Line, I believe you were on that committee, wanted to make a few comments about some of the outreach efforts we underwent to ensure
Sure.
people were aware.
Be happy to. You know, the stormwater utility issue's been on our agenda since 2006. Actually, before that, city back in around 2000 did a stormwater master plan, and it identified all the issues with our stormwater system within the city that totaled up to about $50 million worth of improvements that needed to be made over a period of time. So in 2006, we instituted a stormwater utility on a simple process. It was $1 per residential unit, and then a graduated amount to businesses, where the maximum I think a business was paying was like a couple hundred dollars a month. So then the council for the past 3 years have been studying and looking at the fact that that wasn't generating anywhere near the kind of money needed to address the issues. And so we began a long process going back 3 years, hired a consulting firm to help us, look at an appropriate fee structure. And for a year we worked on that, and that was the development of the equivalent residential unit as a fee structure. And so again, that was the advisory committee that worked on that for a year, that was made up of representatives from the hospital, private business, the school district, college, what have you. Worked on that for over a year, and then that was presented to the city council at several different meetings here. We then adopted the ERU system, and then implementation didn't go into effect until almost a year later. I'm not sure, 8 to 9 months. So there's been multiple outreach opportunities for the community. So this shouldn't be a surprise, really, to most people that this is here. And I know January was the first time the bill started to come, and people started asking a lot of questions. And you're not the first person that's had questions. We've had many of those, and we've looked at their area to make sure it was calculated appropriately and what have you. So that's just a quick history, but just to understand, to make the point that this didn't just happen last week. It's been on our agenda since roughly 2006.
Well, I'm just curious on my property alone, how I can go from a $16 stormwater drain bill, which I have not a problem one paying, to $407 a month. And all the water stays on I went to your public works people, explained to them the situation, and they kept telling me that we've looked at everything. You're not looking at everything because all the storm water stays on my property. The city attacks none. My property is lower than the stormwater drain. I retain the water. It goes into a grass area. Your impervious water goes through rocks, guys. We try to make a nice walkway or driveway for our people or whatever. Just because we have rocks doesn't mean that water doesn't go through it and runs off. My
Now, when
property
you
floods
spoke
on the
with-
south end.
When you spoke with Public Works, did they explain the different measures that existed to alleviate your bill? So there are several steps you can take, and it sounds like you've already taken some
I
of those.
did, and they didn't want to listen to me. They just flat said, we figured out this is how it's gonna be. Well, how can it be that when my property is lower? Because I asked them, I said, there are no curbs and guttering along Halsted Street off 4th Street. My property's right there. At the south end of my property, the water runs down Halsted because it's downhill to the south, cuts right across onto my property and drains on. I said, does this mean I can charge the city for the water? And they said, no, we don't own the water. We just own what goes in the storm drain, and that's what you're being billed for. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The water's not going in your storm drain. I don't know where the problems are in the city, but this needs to be an individually based system, not just your roof has 33,000 square feet, we're gonna charge you this much money regardless. That's not fair.
Mr. Sorensen, I think you raise a valid question in asking where's the money going to be spent. John, or perhaps Jeff, give us a little overview of what the next 8 to 10 year plan might be in terms of the stormwater utility overall plan, because there is a plan in place.
Wow.
And it's a thorough plan and well documented, and perhaps Jeff, you can, it's very complex, but Jeff, spend a few minutes and give it us a highlight of that.
Good morning, Jeff Peterson, Interim Director of Engineering. The plan is that we're trying to develop areas and develop options so we can cut off some of the water that comes into town and cause problems in the south part of town. I don't have a specific item or things like that. We also have some other areas where it just takes longer for water to escape from the city. So some of those options are going to be implemented as we go forward. So some of the flooding in the southern parts of town may be minimized. It won't probably be done, but I mean all alleviated depending on the rainfall. And we also have some problems up in the middle part of town too, Main and 15th, 14th, 13th areas that we want to take care of going forward. So they're long-term projects because they're not, we have to upgrade infrastructure from downstream to upstream and try to improve those locations as we go. In fact, one of our first projects that we have going on this next year will be Maple Street, It's up in the 9th and 10th area where we've actually have a storm sewer box that has collapsed a number of times. So we're going to replace that and get started at trying to rehab that portion of storm sewers. And there's some others that we're going to reline and things like that. But that's the first project going forward. We're still trying to identify the next best place to start after that. So that's a very short answer. But
Am I correct in also saying that our relative flatness works against us, obviously, from a draining standpoint?
it
Does
does,
involve lift
because it doesn't move
stations
that
and-
fast,
Right.
first of all. And it is a challenge, so.
Yeah, not insurmountable, but
No, it
challenge,
isn't,
yeah.
but detention and some of the other things may end up being at the forefront of the options we take going forward.
I
So,
see.
And Jeff, did you meet with Mr. Sorensen to talk
Yes.
about his impervious area and make sure that
We did
look-
talk,
calculations, yeah.
so.
Because there are things such as adding a retention pond and other things that can be done to bring that bill down, correct?
Correct.
Or green space.
A portion of it, it won't totally alleviate it.
Well, I understand that, but if I'm retaining all my own water, in fact, I'm even I built, that had a stream running off the corner of Halstead where the drain would not even take that much water at one time. It washed out my property and I took on more of the water. And then I have a tough time getting the water off of my property. I gotta go out there with a tractor and a blade or my skid loader and push the water to the grassy areas. So this, I mean, I do believe, I mean, if you, and I've got almost 50 people here to agree, there's got to be a better way of figuring this. I realize the city needs to spend the money. We do realize that. But raising your bill from 16 to 407, that is unrealistic. That is just totally unrealistic.
Well-
When the stormwater drain is more than my taxes.
Yeah, and I know that that is why we struggled for a decade or more to implement something like this, because it is somewhat of it's burdensome on some businesses. But on the other hand, we can't maintain the status quo and never address this issue. And there are several communities that have the ERU in place. It looked like the most fair. Maybe there's not a system out there that will be 100% fair, but it is the most fair option that we had before us. And so that's what we moved forward with. And I appreciate your comments. I don't know if the Public Works Department can work with you anymore to see if there's other things that can be done to lower your bill, but it's not a bill that's going to go away completely, because it's
And
absolutely
I
needed.
understand that, I really do. I mean, if you want a one-time fee of like $500 or whatever, I can understand that, because I do love this city. I've been here all my life. But I can't see my stormwater drain being more than my property taxes, because I will never be able to sell my property now.
Well, Jeff,
You've
you
ruined the
might work
values.
with him to determine what can be done to lower the cost of that, if you don't mind.
And we have to work within the constraints of the ordinance, so.
Absolutely.
So what
And that's what they
he
kept
gets.
trying to tell me, and I'm going.
Well,
and-
the ordinance isn't going away. I
Well, that's
apologize
fine.
if that's the answer you're wanting. You're not gonna get that here today
I don't
because,
want it to go away.
Okay.
I understand that we got to get the infrastructure better. But it needs to be on a single stage plane. Every business should be looked at independently, not as a whole. I mean, you're looking at, okay, I have a 33,000 square foot warehouse. We got lots of ERUs on that. We're gonna get the money off of that. The water is not going to the city drains, it's staying on me.
well, and again, I'm not an expert in this at all, and I'm not sure it's something that we're going to solve
And
this
there's
morning.
50 other people here that would like an answer too, to why it's went this atrociously high at one time. When is this ever gonna stop?
Well, it's interesting to me that we don't have hardly any public input on items in the months and months and months leading up to these ordinances. Same with the rental inspection program. And then afterward, we get a lot of input. And it's not that we can't do anything after the fact. We could repeal it if we felt that that was in the best interest of the community as a whole. But I really would encourage people to try to give their input before we vote on these ordinances.
I do believe that this, I think the city is at a point, and we're in the early stages of the implementation of this plan. It's a long-term, 15, 20-year plan. But I really do think it's incumbent upon us to do what we can to improve the public awareness throughout the community. And that's a challenge, I know, but more identification of what the projects are, and to try to convey to the public exactly how their benefits are being occurred on a case-by-case basis, whether it's the Maple Street project, that we ought to give some attention to that, and other projects going forward. And John, I would hope that we could expand upon that as time goes on. I know it's a tough challenge, but
I think it's an excellent point. And you know, the equivalent residential unit, really, a lot of thought went into that it is the fairest, because before, the residential house was paying $1 and Walmart was paying a couple $100 a month. Yeah. It's not a fair, and the ERU is based on your impervious area. It's your rooftop. In a house, we went from $1 to $4.75.
Yeah.
So it's the fairest way based on the amount of impervious area you have on your property. So the Walmarts of the world are paying a lot. You've got more rooftop than the guy next to you, and you're paying more.
Walmart has drains in their parking lot, which takes on all the water that comes from their roof and their parking lot.
Mr. Sorensen, you
Yeah,
said you had a list of people who also were unaware of it? Or,
Yes.
Well, that's something that if we could consider maybe another mailing, another public meeting, like John mentioned, just more public education, but it wasn't an easy decision to
And I'm sure it
come to this
wasn't. I'm
conclusion.
sure it wasn't.
But we, I remain committed to it. I don't know how the rest of the council feels. It's a very long-term project that needs to be taken on, but if there's something that we can do to better educate them, could you leave us a copy of?
I'll give you the
That-
whole list.
that would be
Or
great.
Make me up a copy. This is what I want, and just in one day, this is one day of me just going around to businesses around and asking, how bad did your water bill go? I mean, we all understood our water bill was gonna go up, and we had that plan. But to 2 and 3 and 10 times and 20 times.
Were there any estimates given when we did that initial,
Estimates as far as,
well, to the
What it was gonna
businesses?
cost.
Like what it was
not
gonna,
to everyone.
okay,
We did send out a mailer, I mean, before things were implemented to every person that receives a bill. We did send out to the top 100 properties.
that's right. I know
And we
you
also
did.
sent it all to all the churches and those types of things for their budget
I see,
purposes.
I see.
There's about 1,800 different non-residential type properties that are involved. I mean, aside from, that have this type of complaint. Some of them do, some of them don't.
Yeah.
But
As
we did-
always, I assume this can also be found online for those.
It is.
Okay, and I'm not saying I want to sit down and read the water ordinance myself, but some of the answers might be found on there as well.
Copied off your ordinance, and it's very vague. It just says we're gonna make a bank fund pretty much, and everybody'd like to know when it's gonna stop. Is it
Well-
ever gonna stop?
I think the master plan is the plan, right? The stormwater master plan is what the ordinance was instituted for. So that's not part of the ordinance. It's a separate lengthy document.
Yeah.
But again, we can do, as Dave Line mentioned, we can do a lot better at,
well, Mr. Sorensen, I hope you would understand that the city's going to be smart in this project.
Hoping.
Hopefully, it will not be wasteful spending. Believe me, sir, I'm utmost confident that our city staff and the design of this, we're going to see noticeable improvements. So when we get that next 7-inch rain, that's going to alleviate a lot of those problems that we've had in the past. And it's out of sight, out of mind is
Well, I
sometimes what
understand.
stormwater utility is. So
But I
we're going
take on
to
a lot
be
of
smart
water.
about this.
yeah.
I've got like 12 acres that I take on a lot of
Yeah.
the I got a whole back field there where my abandoned vehicles have been stored, that it gets to a foot deep because even the stormwater drain beside my place is higher than my property. I can't even drain the water off of it. I have to wait patiently for Mother Nature to. Everybody complains about high winds. I love high winds. It dries the water out faster. You know, I mean, that's why I'm saying everything needs to be looked at an individual base. Because, yes, I agree, a place like Walmart, that all of their water is in the stormwater drain. A business like mine, zero goes in. I don't mind paying for some stormwater drainage, because God, I hope it helps out better. But I can't afford $407 a month when I used to have $41 water bill. We flush a toilet. I know it's two different things, but at the same time, that's on the water bill. I went from $41 to $60 a month with like a $16 stormwater drain on my bill to $407 of just stormwater drain.
Yes, and I think we have that number down, and we will work with you some more to see if there's anything we can do to lower that bill. But moving forward, it's something that we really need for the community. And nobody thinks about this until we have a massive flood, and then everybody's up in arms. Why isn't the city doing something? And so I think that we need to be forward thinking on this. And I appreciate your comments. If you would leave that list with us, I would appreciate that as well. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council?
You got a couple.
Gotta be quick.
Gotta be fast.
Faster.
I'm Ed Manchi. I own Silas Enterprises, and I have a lot of different businesses around Hutchinson that I own. And I'll try to be quicker than what Dean was, and I understand what Dean's saying. I have comments on this, the word impervious, I can't even pronounce it. Okay, and I think it would help out Dean a lot too, is a lot of I have a salvage yard. A lot of my property is sand. It's not, pavement, it's not rock, it's sand. So I'm being charged for sand. Water does not run off sand. It stays there. Now, I have had the Public Works, I guess it is, come out and work with me, because I did have a great big 10-acre lot of field that had grass growing on it. I was being charged, and they did work with me a lot. And the young lady that come out was real helpful. She did work with us really good. But I did tell her there is other questions, like my yard on 11th Street is basically sand. I understand pavement, concrete, buildings, but I don't understand dirt. I understand when we drive across it, it gets packed. Okay, that's fine, except it's still, water turns it to mud. And it does not run off, it soaks in. So that needs to be looked at. The word impervious, I don't know, if you look it up in the dictionary, there's different
Well, that's a really
meanings
good
for it.
point. It was my impression that sand would count as one of the factors that would lower the cost.
Dirt and packed clay, and then you have packed rock, and then you have concrete, and you have asphalt, and everything is different for the runoff thing. And Sorensen's, a lot of his ground is sand where he keeps his cars and stuff. So they need to look at that a little bit. That would help him out a lot, and that would help us out a lot. I have a yard on Spencer, 316 Spencer. Okay, there's a big building there, but there's a big area in the middle that once again is dirt. I'm paying on the whole thing. It is packed down, yes, but it still is dirt. And the alleys are about a foot higher on both sides of this property. And when it rains, the water comes in, and we have a big lake in there. And in fact, one of the buildings goes underwater, about 6 inches of water because of the alley. Now, the alleys need to be taken down on it. But I'm not on that form that he gave you, but I should be. I didn't get it signed. So, but I'm thinking they need to look at this case to case, like you was suggesting, and work with the people. And like I said, the people that come out, they did work with us really good. And then one other real quick thing. I have a lot of rental properties, and I in, I'm up here right now to register them that they're for sale. We're going to sell them because it's not a lot of money, $25 per property. I think I have 15 or something like that. Okay, that adds up. But the state has hit us now with a $1,500 a year fee to buy scrap metal. It's an anti-theft thing. There's $25 a place here. Then this new water, I call it the rainwater tax, is on us. Metals are down right now. There's a lot of businesses in Hutchinson that are really not making it really like they used to make it. So we need to do something different on that too. And you say something about people need to get involved before this. I am so busy. I don't have time to read every day and see what's going on. I put my whole trust in you guys. You guys are elected. So all my trust goes into you, that you do the best for my business and for my house, because I live in Hutchinson. I was born in Hutchinson. So all my trust goes into you guys do the best for me. I can't keep reading up and see what you're doing on it. I wish I could. Maybe if you sent me out a newsletter every week or something, you know, I could read it. But anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you, Ed.
Thank
And
you.
I don't have that formula in front of me, but moving forward, maybe it's something we do need to look at, the formula that determines how much.
John, haven't you
Well, it's
researched that a little
been,
bit?
I mean, the formula's been heavily researched and, you know, because I had the same question where people put rock down, and when you put a rock, you put rock in a parking lot or driveway, you know, if you're doing it right, you're compacting that area, and regardless of what people say, it's not all filtering down through that. It's run because of the compaction. And so I even did some research other communities and how quickly, this has been a few months back, how they handled those types of situations, and they were considered impervious. So now sand, if it's undisturbed sand, that's a different, or whatever, parking, and you apparently had some areas where they,
Cars on
yeah.
and park it,
That's
so
a
we
little-
drive over it.
But I can say the formula has been researched
Okay.
extensively, and we've talked a lot about that, and not to say that there isn't each property, because each property is a little bit different. We have to go out, and apparently we went out and looked at Mr.
Yeah, she
Mancy's
come out,
property
she
and
was real
reduced some of that based on what they saw. And Jeff and his staff, we've done a lot of that with other property owners, and in some cases, yeah, this shouldn't be a part of that. In other cases, maybe not. So, but I think the point would be for a property owner to sit down with Jeff and his staff to look at and make sure we've got the impervious area calculated appropriately. But in terms of what the definition of an impervious, I mean, I think we've researched that and have that pretty well in hand, and pretty common with what, you know, other stormwater utilities have done. So,
Thank you.
Well, you know, and then, I don't know how to say this without it sounding kind of like a threat. It's not really a threat, but we donate cars to the fire department for Jaws of Life to practice. We donate cars to the colleges, and we have all kinds of stuff like this, and we don't charge them a dime. And I say, I would say probably close to 100 to 150 cars a year. We donate to them free. They come out to my place, they practice. We donate to Shop with a Cop. We donate to a lot of programs here in Hutchinson. I mean, if we're gonna have to start paying higher taxes and higher fees, then we're gonna have to start pulling that money and start charging for these cars. And to me, that's an important program, and I have been with it since the 80s, and I have never charged them. I don't know if the taxes keep going up and the fees keep going up, we're gonna have to start charging the city for that, and I really don't wanna do that, you know? I was, like I say, I love Hutchinson. I don't wanna leave it,
Yeah.
you know, so. Anyway, I thought that's not a threat, 'cause I don't wanna do that. I'm just saying if everything goes up, we're gonna have to start bringing money in from some other place to pay these.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank
much
you.
for
Thank you.
comments. Are there others in the audience who would like to address the council?
Over your shoulder.
Hello, my name is Mike Clares, managing owner-operator of the Rusty Needle, 1808 North Plum. Basically, I'm here today to basically get a little guidance, a little help maybe. I'm not sure which direction to go right now. I've been doing this about 4.5 years now. We've always played live music outside. We used to play it till 1:30. I've talked to John. I've talked to the police numerous times, just trying to work with them. I went to John a couple months ago because we had a lady complain to you all, I believe, one lady. And I agreed to basically trying to work with the community. I still have to make a living, but work with the community. We are zoned commercial to basically shut it down at midnight and only do shows on Fridays and Saturdays. So, I mean, I've cut it way back. And that wasn't ever, we've already had 2 shows and it wasn't an issue. Till this Saturday the 12th, I had a live band, a national touring act from Las Vegas. Their opener was from Hungary. They're not everybody's favorite music. They were metal, but we do all genres of music. So I'm under the understanding after talking to the police, we had 3 calls, 3 complaints. 2 of them from the fairgrounds. 1 from a resident that is directly behind me. She's the one that there's 2 ladies that normally call in, and they're directly behind me. I'm willing, like I said, I'm willing to talk to them. I'm willing to do if I need to walk around through the community to see what I can do differently. I put up a higher fence. I've done everything on my part, even shutting it down early. But the night of that night, the 12th, at 10:30 p.m., HPD comes in and tells me I have to shut my music down. Having this national touring act that people pay for to come see, and the reason I booked it was because there was a pub crawl downtown. If I don't book something like that, I'm going to do no business that night because everything is downtown. We've promoted downtown. Everything was downtown that night. And I don't have a problem with that. We just went a different direction, hired a band. We drew a crowd in. Well, when we send people at home at 10:30 at night, I lost over $1,000 that night. Because basically, if you figure there's 80 people in the patio, a couple hours, if everybody spent $15, there's $1,200 down the drain. What I'm looking for is a little help. Maybe, I don't know what else to do. I mean, I've like I said, we've done this. I've talked to him, talked to these guys, and nobody really has an answer because we are zone commercial. I mean, and I'm trying to work with the community. We've done my question is, we do numerous fundraisers. Like we do First Call for Help. We do Out of School Bash where we give back to, like we did First Call for Help this last time. We've done the food bank. We've done everything else. What happens if I'm doing one of those and we just come in and shut it down? So now those nonprofits lose money. Well, what happens if I'm also on the board for Concerts for the Cause? What happens if we're doing a show on Avenue Way Park right now and the guy that lives in the loft across the street or the apartment or whatever they are chooses he doesn't like the music at 7:30 at night? Are we shut down? I'm just curious. So what do you guys, I'm trying to bring it to light here. I know there's no immediate answer, but I mean, I've heard, the complaints about me by one lady and one phone call from the community in the last, 6 months or whatever. So I don't know. And then is one phone call warranted to be shut down? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know what our noise ordinance, I'm not well versed on those.
We don't have a noise ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah.
No noise ordinance.
No, and you
I'm
remember
sorry.
we talked about this
Yeah.
several years back with a race car complaint and decided that was not the venue. But to point out one of Mike's comments, the downtown example, we do have a loud music permit that we give to those types of
Did we pull one of
situations,
those?
and they.
I'm on the board for Concerts for the Cause. We don't pull one of those.
I think you should be. And Jim Seitnader, you work through him on that, but typically they require a certain shutdown time, and if you've got that. And the other issue with Mike's situation is and Mike, I'm gonna say what you and I talked about yesterday, is that whoever had the Rusty Needle to begin with, there was never any outdoor bands played.
No,
And-
you,
Right.
you and I talked about that also, but we've been doing this for 4.5 years.
Well, let me finish. And then, you've basically got a building that was there in C4 zone that was many things. It become Rusty Needle. It was a bar. And then the business model's changed, and it's went to an outdoor concert, which is an issue. And it's not an issue until somebody complains, and the council had the lady come in, and you told us to look into this and see what we can do. We met, and we talked about this, let's maybe just limit it to Friday and Saturday and midnights. And we've had no issues with the Rusty Needle. I mean, they've been really good to work with. And I told Mike yesterday, well, let's just move forward the way we are, and we'll see how it plays out. But in my correspondence to the council back in early February, I said this was going to be our plan, but I expected that we would address this issue again this summer. Well, the summer came sooner than then, because there are neighbors that live there that don't feel the same way as Mike or others, that it bothers me. And so the council's in really a difficult situation. And I don't know that we've got any answer. I mean, the Polo, Bogies, all those places could start outdoor music, and we would be talking about the same issue.
What
So
does the zoning permit? So in commercial zoning, can you have concert halls or, and there's nothing that addresses this?
Well, that was my
Zoning-
question.
yeah,
Nothing
zoning
he's
is-
doing is necessarily illegal or wrong.
No,
per
no,
se.
it's just disturbing basically, it's just disturbing the peace, I guess.
The question I had was, okay, if I had 3 calls and 2 of them were from the fair, so the next time the fair starts and I call and complain, are we shutting the state fair down?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it, but I mean,
You're right. I can hear the
we're to the point now
grandstand.
where
Oh,
Miles
yeah,
away.
I can
we're
hear
to the point now where it's
grandstand, too.
okay. So it's Third Thursday, and people live upstairs now on Main Street. What do they call because they don't like the music down there? Do we shut everything down outside? I mean, I'm trying here, guys, but we also have to. And I get the answer. We'll move it inside. I can't move full bands inside because I have a capacity of 84 in our small bar. You move a band in there, it takes a quarter of your space. You have no seating now, and we're at 50 deep. You go outside, which is a wide open patio, and people love. I'm sorry, but that's our draw. That's our niche. That's how we become something other than Johnny's Bar. We've brought in live music and big acts. I mean, like, I brought my planner in just to show you. We are basically booked every weekend until July with numerous acts. I've got a class reunion that wants to be outside and brought their own band. Their 25th class reunion. They want to be on the patio. They brought their own band. I mean, I don't know what, I had a band call me from Texas yesterday that had read something on Facebook. They wanted to know if they were still going to be able to do their CD launch party here at the Rusty Needle, Hutchinson, Kansas, all the way from Dallas, Texas, because of what had happened to the previous band being shut down at 10:30.
So help me understand, Mike. HPD comes, says there's a noise complaint, and
No, no,
period.
no. They called me at 8:30 and asked me to turn it down.
Okay.
I went out, told my sound guy, shut it down. Okay? I watched the sound guy go 4 notches down. Well, I don't hear another word. HPD shows up at 10:30, shut it off.
So is that what we do? Is that our policy?
Well, I mean, it's like a disturbing the peace. It's basically disorderly conduct. You've got a house party, and somebody calls, the police department shows up, shut it down. I mean, it's just, and I don't want to paint the police department in a bad light here,
no,
because
no,
they're
no,
doing
it wasn't their
exactly,
fault. It wasn't their
they're
fault.
doing
No.
exactly
No.
what they do. And it's just like if your neighbor had a party and you called, you would expect the police department to shut that down at that time.
The difference is I'm zoned commerce.
Yeah.
You know, I think
It's sticky.
in a residence, if my party at my house was getting too loud, I'm zoned residential. I'm surrounded by residents. For me, this particular issue is pointing to some of the issues I've raised in our previous discussions when we look at
Rezoning.
making zoning changes. Now, this property is zoned as it's been zoned for many years, and I'm really not
speaking to it so much as just every time we make a change, we've got to recognize what
What
can
are
come with that.
Especially being right across
And-
the street from the state fair.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know, and I have no idea what the expense would be, but are there other sound abatement or containment things you could do
We
to,
have tried,
to
the only step now would
buffer
be
from you
to
and the
put a whole
residents?
roof in. And that's gonna come with, I've talked to the city planner about that, but that takes architectural designs, that takes this, that, the other, and that's a lot of money. We're basically, like I said, we're a bar and grill, and we're trying to make it with all the new bars and grills and the new commercial, whatever, this, that, the other, Buffalo Wild Wings, this, that, the other. We're just a mom and pop trying to make it. We're local. And the only way we can is we found new ways to survive, which was live music. And now if you ask anybody across the board, we have, 2,000, 2,800 friends, whatever, Facebook, that's social media. But that's how they know us. Rusty Needle puts on live music. And that's a draw for us every weekend. We don't play the same genre of music every weekend. I don't think it would have been an issue this last weekend if it would have been another genre of music. If it would have been country music with the rodeo or whatever across the street, they would have been in the bar as opposed to calling. But we do play bluegrass, folk. I've got bands lined up that play 60s, 70s, sock hop. We've got all kinds of genres of music for everybody. But there are those occasional louder metal shows.
We also talked, what, the show's traditionally 3 hours?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, you were originally at one point going to 1, you backed that off to
We were
midnight.
actually at 1:30.
1:30, yeah.
Then we backed it off to midnight.
I guess, yeah, bars can be 2.
Yeah, we
okay.
because we could serve basically we'd call last call at 1:30. Band was done, they leave, we shut down at 2. But then after talking to John, we'll shut it down at midnight, which makes sense. People can hang out with the band, get autographs, do what they want, and the bands would agree to stay and hang out. So I was like, okay, it's a win-win situation. We'll start instead of 10 o'clock, we'll start at 9 o'clock.
Right.
This show, we started at 8 to be done by midnight. We had 4 bands. And like I said, we would have been done at 11:45, actually. We were going to be done early. But we got shut down. It was like kind of being at a house party of a bunch of underage drinkers, and the police show up and, hey, shut it down. I mean, that's what it kind of felt like as a bar owner. I was kind of embarrassed. I mean, we've got bands from Vegas, and I've got fans that have traveled from Missouri, Wichita, Salina to come see this band. And I told the cops themselves, you can ask them at the report, hey, hang out for a minute. I've never called you before, but I might need you tonight because there are 80 people outside. They're going to be very upset when I tell them they can't hear the feature act. The only reason they did not was the lead singer of this band, we've done numerous shows with them before. Said, Mike, you've always treated us right. You've always been good to us. We're going to come back and do a free show. Let's get it on the books right now. We'll make it as early as we need to get out of the way, and we'll hope we draw. And that's the only way it went, because these people would have wanted their money back. That's another $800 lost, because they all paid $10 to see them. I mean, I can't take those kind of financial losses. I don't know about you guys,
No.
but $800 to $1,000 is a lot of money. I mean, that's rent. That's light bill. I mean, that's a lot of things.
Well, it
So how
seemed-
have you and John left things on your
John
last
basically
conversation?
said, let's kind of play it by ear as we go and see what happens, because it was one complaint,
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically. But the other issue I have is I can't take that chance of, my problem is I want to play it by ear too, but where does it happen to where
Yeah.
we shut me off on one phone call?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't,
Yeah.
that's playing Russian roulette.
yeah.
And if I've got bands booked until July already,
Well, I hate to add more regulation, but do we need to start to establish some sort of guidelines that can, we're not going to make everyone happy.
is there an agreement that we can do? I mean, I'm willing to walk the neighborhood behind me.
That was my next question. Have you had an opportunity? Will they talk to you? Will
I've
they
asked
not?
to talk to one that came here. She would not.
Yeah.
And I think she's the one who's calling.
Yeah, and she would
Well-
not. She would not. She would not.
Yeah.
Did you
The
talk
one
to
that
her?
called is the one directly behind me
Yeah.
with the swimming pool. No offense.
The one, Yeah, the lady that came to the council and complained, and I've communicated with her, and I communicated with her about our discussion, you know, Friday, Saturday, and she was fine. I mean, she was very nice. Said, "Now I don't think she didn't call
No,
this
she
time."
was not. It was the one directly
Yeah.
behind me.
So
So I have talked to her before, and she said, "No, as long as you play on the weekends only, I'm perfectly fine with it." Well, she was the one that called on Saturday night.
Well, I would not be in favor of creating the type of community that squashes fun activities like this, especially if they're occurring in parameters that you've voluntarily set up that I think are pretty reasonable, and we appreciate that.
Like I said,
So I'm kind of with John. I mean, but I can understand that you don't want to.
right. And like I said, I've talked to at the police. It'll be different, and I'm not saying that there are, but troubled bars
No.
where you have to attend and monitor constantly. We're not one of those.
Right.
In 4.5 years, I can count on one hand how many times we've had to call HPD. And one was because a guy wouldn't leave the property. Two was because 2 females got notified and 1 wanted to press charges. And the third one was because somebody was throwing beer cans from the fairgrounds. It's the only 3 times that I've ever called them. So I mean, and we've been in business a long time. We've been doing live music a long time. I try to cater to people. And we've tried to work with people. Like I said, the ordinance doesn't say anything about shutting down early, but we've agreed to do that. We've taken those steps. So like I said, that's what I'm looking for, is just some kind of, maybe if there's some kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't feel like what is being done is unreasonable, but I don't know if that's sufficient direction to HPD because they're looking out for the residents' best interests. That's kind of why they're there. So
Right.
I don't know if
well, the
what
message,
the answer
yeah.
is.
I mean, the message has got to be clear to PD that if there's a call, I'm sorry, but you know, that
Yeah.
we've got to, and not
I mean,
not a formal agreement or anything, but somewhat of an unwritten understanding.
A valid point
yeah.
about the fairgrounds. Every time there's a race, fireworks,
Yeah,
or
well,
a
we've-
concert,
yeah.
we don't shut them down.
No.
But my thought was and I know Mike's not real comfortable with that, but that we proceed as we'd planned. And, you know, this last weekend, you know, one call, that, you know, from a neighbor, you know, but, you know, 3 weeks from now, you could have a neighbors in here talking to you about the same issue. And so you've got to balance
It's
that
tough to
out.
give the assurances because
Either
people
there
can
are none.
complain for
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
number of reasons.
And so,
In talking to Mike also, I would say that the most recent show, didn't you say it was a bit unique also that they worked off a stage?
They worked off of a stage,
Which
yes, because they're a
raised
National
above.
Touring Act. They are a little, like I said, they're a metal band, and their crowds get a little crazy. Not out of control crazy, but it's a rock metal show, so they like to be elevated away from, so nobody can bump their microphones.
Which
So
brought
that
the
means
speaker
the
levels
sound-
above
Which brought the
fence.
sound
The
amplified a
sound
little higher,
carries further.
yes.
Yeah.
The only time we ever use a stage other than that is during the fair. And that's why during the fair we play later because we don't want to start our music out of respect
Oh, for a concert.
for the state
For the
fair.
state fair.
They have acts playing. There's nothing that says I can't play. But if you paid $25 for a ticket to go watch a state fair act, you really don't want to hear the Rusty Nails music in the background. It's going to annoy you. So we wait as soon as the lights go on at the fairgrounds. Show's over, we start. So, like I said, I think I agree with John, we've made strides to try to fix this issue. I think we're down to 1 or 2 residents. I even sent a message to one because I've talked to her before. I said, "Hey, can you call me? I don't know what happened. I thought we had an agreement that I would, only play on weekends, and she hasn't called me back yet." So,
okay.
all right,
Well, you never know what her circumstances were. I mean, she may have had a grandchild, she may
Yeah.
have been sick,
Who
you know.
knows?
I'm with everybody else. I'm not in favor of making any more rules to shut you down. I hear the fair, and I live clear across town, so,
Right.
that's just part of life.
I appreciate you all's time. Thank you very much.
Well, we
Thank you.
appreciate
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
you've done to work within these.
Yeah.
So we'll
limits.
move forward with the general understanding that we've got today.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Mike, thank you.
Are there others in the audience who'd like to address the council?
Okay.
Anyone else in the
Let's do our
audience?
agenda.
All right.
Maybe
Next
you could
item, please. Can we get on the meeting?
Take the concert money and take the proceeds and put it towards windows or something for the for the insulated windows for the property owners directly behind him.
I don't know.
Cheaper than building a building, maybe, but that's,
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
Tough deal. Sorry.
No problem. Next item, please.
Item 5, consent agenda.
I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6A, consider amended ordinance regarding rezoning of property in Sandy Lake Addition.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. This is just a technical correction, Council. There's a couple of irregularities in the legal description. Some affected the legal description, otherwise we wouldn't redo this. That's all it is. It's a technical correction, and we'd ask you to make that approval.
I would move to approve the technical correction.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 6B, consider reimbursement resolution for spring projects.
My name's Angela Richard. I'm the Assistant Finance Director. As you may recall, the IRS requires that we establish a resolution or pass a resolution saying that we intend to reimburse ourselves for expenses for certain projects that we intend to bond with tax-exempt obligations. So we ask that you pass this resolution, and the projects that we are going to bond later with tax-exempt obligations are the fire parking lot, the Rice Pad Splash Park, the Orchard Park Phase 3B, the Main Street project from 17th to 23rd Street, the airport runway, which is contingent on a FAA grant, and then resurfacing the parking lot on Sherman and Walnut. So our recommendation is that you approve this resolution.
Questions?
Just a question. I'm certainly in favor of the resolution, but I thought there was some thought that there may be some holding off on the Main Street project, or am I confusing some things, or?
No,
There was
the
some
issue
additional
was
work.
there was how far, originally we were going from, what's gauge, 23rd?
Mhm.
23rd down beyond 17th, and now
It
we're
was
going
going
to
beyond-
stop
we're gonna stop at
short of
17th.
17th because
Okay.
of some stormwater drainage
Stormwater
issues we're
drainage.
going to deal with there. So, yeah, that was the only variation.
That's what I was thinking of,
Right.
and I was, okay.
Yeah.
I just have one quick question, and I'm not sure who to direct it to. On the parking lot at Sherman and Walnut, it says that they're gonna remove trees and concrete islands. Are they gonna re-landscape?
We will if we're required to, yeah. and
Okay, I mean-
Jana's nodding her no, yeah.
You're saying yes, we will? Okay.
Well, what we're trying to do is clean that parking lot. We've
Yeah.
had a lot of complaints on that parking lot. And actually, in our budget in 215, it was the parking lot next to Carl's, the old Carl's.
Yeah, yeah.
Oliver's now.
Oh, we know it.
And we've really reprioritized that to Walnut and Sherman now.
Yeah,
so.
I drove through it.
Yeah.
It needs work, but I was concerned about the landscaping
Because
issue.
there's going to be a lot of landscape remaining. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got trees all on the perimeter, which I'm
Okay.
hopeful that I don't know where we're at on that, but
Okay.
it'll fulfill our requirements.
Okey dokey.
Thank you for asking that, Nancy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, all that being said, I will move to approve the resolution of intent. So, as presented by staff.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes, next item, please.
Item 7A, consider contract amendment number 2 with J.E. Dunn Construction Company.
Madam Mayor and Council, let me give just an intro to this agenda item. Before you today is a contract amendment number 2 to a previously approved contract we had with between the city and J.E. Dunn for construction management at-risk services for the sports arena project. The council approved previously amendment number 1 back on March 1st, which represented our bid package number 1. You recall that discussion. You'll also recall our decision at that time was to really set this project up into multiple bid packages. Bid package number 1 represented about 60% of the project. Bid package number 2, about 35%. And then we'll have a future bid package number 3 that'll represent about 5%. And that's things like food service, some audiovisual stuff, just things that we're not ready to bid just yet. On Thursday, March 3rd, J.E. Dunn opened bids for bid package number 2. And in your packet is a detailed spreadsheet that reflects the actual bids compared with budget. And our total for bid package number 2 and the guaranteed maximum price is $9,970,251. And bid package number 2 was very complex in that there were at least 23 scopes of work to be bid out, and so it was really a pretty complex bid opening. And what we found out is that the project was over budget by about 4.5%, so well over $1 million. So working with the construction management and architects, the team identified areas that we can reduce cost, as well as reevaluating our contingency levels in order to bring this project into budget as we stand today. And a result of that work, we now have an on-budget project, but we're still carrying our owner's contingency and a construction contingency, but those have been reduced. And the thought is that we'll replenish those contingencies in the next month or two as more evaluation value engineering goes on in the project. And Jeff from J.E. Dunn we can talk about the contingency issue. And J.E. Dunn is very adamant that they want to carry that full construction contingency because there's a lot of unknowns yet. And so we want to make sure that we're able to replenish those contingencies at a later date. So right now, as it stands today, with the reduction of the contingencies, the owner's contingency is $594,000 and a construction contingency of about $591,000. So, and again, reducing these contingencies and some of the work we've done has really not reduced our scope of work. Not to say that things like that aren't going to happen at some point in time, but we haven't reduced the overall scope of the work. Bid package number 2 was presented to the building committee on March 16th for review. And at this time, we're going to recommend approval of the contract amendment number 2 that would establish a guaranteed maximum price for bid package number 2 of $9,970,251. Did I say that right? So this will bring the total J.E. Dunn construction contract to the $25,831,116. So it also, this contract reflects the construction management fee for bid package number 2. That's $242,000 roughly, and this will bring the total construction management fee for J.E. Dunn to $627,594. So with that, that's a lot, I realize, and in your packet there's a lot of detailed information. And there's when we talked at the building committee meeting last week, when it was reported we were about 4.5% over budget, J.E. Dunn team and the engineers went to work and basically talking to all the subcontractors. Are there alternatives that you can look at that can reduce your cost? And it really shows the value to me of this process. If we did the traditional design bid build, we basically open a bid and that's what we've got. And here, we're value engineering as we go. And I think that initial review, they were able to look at reducing about $900,000 to just through a process of communication with the subcontractors. Hey, what the subcontractors saying, hey, what if we use this material or this color instead of that? And it really is really a good process. So I'll stop there and we'll just stand for any questions that you might have. Jeff Sweeten from J.E. Dunn is here to help address some of the questions that I probably won't be able to address. So,
John,
comments,
does
questions?
this mean the alternates are off the table then?
The alternates are still in play. I mean, and I don't know, Jeff, if you want to speak to that, but they're still there.
Right now, we're focusing on the base bid, but through the VE process, we can
achieve more, it can bring the opportunity for alternates back on the table.
Okay.
Jeff, I noticed in your, in Jay Dunn's letter on Exhibit A, one of the bullet points references the application of a seal coat at the existing parking lot does not include sealing of any cracks and so on. My question is that what we can expect to be done at the parking lots, or will we still look at the alternates of a complete overlay?
I mean, right now, we're expecting exactly what you just said, just the seal coat, which is essentially, that's it. We do have the alternate pricing in there.
Right.
But I think that's a decision that we won't be able to make until later in the process.
Again, through the VE analysis, we can keep ongoing and we can strive for that value.
Yeah.
Strive for that value, right.
Maybe you've answered this and I haven't heard it, but how can, we're going through bid package 2 and it was over about 4.5, and you've done some value engineering,
Right.
brought that down, dipped into the contingencies. So how can we even be expecting any of the alternates
That's what I'm
if we're
Already in
over
the
at about the,
contingencies.
where are we at now, about the 95% level? We've only got bid package 3, which is at about 5. How can we expect to, help me
We
out
just
understand
kind of
how we can-
scratched the surface of the VE process. We can
Okay.
continue moving forward. Some of it just takes time. Again,
Yeah.
in a short amount of time, we've got where we need to be to get the base bid where we're comfortable moving forward. We're going to continue searching, continue looking for opportunities. We can set the goal to be higher than just the base bid and keep pushing. Asphalt is something that will not happen right now. It is something that we have more time, and more time gives us more opportunity.
So
And
even though
the
it's,
pricing may change dramatically between now and the time you actually get ready to do something too. I mean, you never know.
They have a time period that their quotes are guaranteed.
Yeah,
We need to work within that time period, and I believe it's
Yeah.
45 days.
okay.
I guess I just don't fully understand the process. So even though something has been bid out at this base bid that is over budget right now, you then go back to them, even though you've accepted that base bid, and say, what would happen if we chose this material or this color or et cetera, et cetera. That's where the value engineering
That's
comes
where the
in.
negotiation-
Correct.
So even though we have 90 to 95% bid out and we're over budget, we're still gonna come in under budget possibly and have the option for alternates.
That is something we can strive for. I can't guarantee we can get all the alternates, but through this process, instead of setting it just to make base bid, we can set it to try and gain a key alternate or something of that fashion. I can't guarantee them all, but through the process, we can identify with the committee going, which ones do we shoot for? And we just open up the table to push for a value. Can't guarantee it, but that's the goal.
John,
Yeah.
I think the committee knows that we would like them.
Yeah,
To reach
that's
for
been
that
clearly
parking lot?
communicated to them, and we understand where we are because we need some time on this situation. Where are you on, after you did the proposed deducts of all those things we looked at last week, of the $907,000 deduct, where is our delta now? Is it somewhere around the $250,000
Right
level?
now, it's around 300,000.
Is it about
And
300?
in the list, what we looked at last week, we've added 5 to 7 more items that we're looking to get numbers.
Okay.
And we're making more calls to more subs to look at more opportunities. So again, in my opinion, we've kind of scratched the surface.
Right.
And we got more details to look at.
You might explain, either Jeff or John, in terms of the encouragement of the building committee to make sure that hopefully we can get back to that 3% allowance for contingency. Share with the council
Well,
what the building committee's anticipation and hope is.
I mean, that's
Get back to that.
Yeah, and I think it might be appropriate, and I'm gonna let Jeff maybe tackle this one, just discuss the, design contingency, owner's contingency,
Right.
and construction contingency. And the design contingency's been reduced, all along as we get further in design. do we even have, is there still
The
some?
design contingency have been applied to all this.
Yeah,
It's
so
been applied
we've
to
got
all
through
this.
that. But the construction contingency is pretty important, and we have yet to even start construction. I mean, we
Right.
tore up the parking lot, and so there's a lot of things that can happen, on a $25 million construction project. So I'll let
Yeah,
you talk
right
about
now,
out of the gate starting date, we want the contingencies. As we go through the VE process, if we take 2 months into it and we take a look at a few things that we thought were high risk and we feel, okay, we're past that hurdle, we can evaluate contingencies and do we feel it could be lowered since we're past that risk? Well, there's one evaluation we can take. We're not ready at that point to start doing that, so that's why we're still continuing talking with the bidders and the subcontractors through bid package 1, looking at all opportunities to make adjustments to within the scope of work that still leave you the overall aesthetic project. You know, one simple one, it was a pavers, a different brand name, same color, same look, but there's a savings. So we're still trying to evaluate all those opportunities.
And the contingencies, at the end of the day, you go through the whole process and there's contingencies left. That then can be applied towards these other alternates and things of that nature, or returned what, to the owner, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Do the project cost.
Like I say, in a couple months, we can evaluate whether or not we feel that we need to stick with the 3%, or are we at a point that should we evaluate potentially an alternate or something like that. At this point, we're not ready to make that recommendation. We feel we need to stay at the full contingencies, and that's the goal to get there.
And to meet the, or to get it back down to budget, we applied a reduction to both the construction and the owner contingency. Is it normally applied to both equally like that?
Yeah, that's a common practice, yes.
Okay. I'm reading up on construction versus owner contingency, and I thought
Yeah.
one had to do with, we talk more like soft costs, and the other one with bid overruns or things of that nature. So I wasn't sure if it always is applied to each side.
And this process is familiar in the industry. It
Yeah, I was
is
going to
done.
ask you, Jeff, you've had some experience, so we're not just rolling the dice on this thing.
Correct. This
I
is a
think we
familiar
need that
process.
assurance.
It's a familiar process that
Right.
I've seen a lot of success in. It's something we'd prefer not to do, but it
Right.
does occur, and we have been successful with it.
What were the original contingency values or amounts?
Let's see.
500 and.
The construction was, and I'm gonna say it was over 700,000.
750.
Yeah, 715.
750.
3% of 25 million.
And.
Over
well, the
Owner-
owners
owner would be
the
similar,
same
wouldn't it?
thing.
Over
Yeah, same
700
thing,
for
yeah.
both of them,
Okay.
yes.
So about 1.4, 1.5 million
Okay.
between them.
So about 150, 200,000 each decreased.
I think it was
This
around
move.
160 or 50, 150 something, right? But
Yeah, you're down to.
so, you know, even though,
Almost
you know, we made that, move those dollars, we still have a pretty good contingency in both, you know, both buckets. But the goal from the committee was to work to be able to get those buckets filled back up so that at the end of the project, we still have some to be able to do some of the
1.4, 1.5,
alternates that,
yeah.
you know, in the parking lot alternate was a, you know, $460,000 add, so.
So how will the contingencies be refilled? I guess it's probably the same question as how can we think about considering the alternates? The answer might be the same as my second, that question is, how will we refill the contingencies?
By savings.
By the VE
On those
process,
deducts,
right?
By
yeah,
the VE,
there's a
through
whole
the
list
VE
of deducts
process.
there that,
Yeah.
There's
We
some, if you saw that list,
Yeah, you saw
that
that
they
list.
haven't fully evaluated yet.
Yeah, we
so-
provide an itemized list that we review with the owner and the architect.
Okay.
Some of these do take a
Take some
lengthy
time.
period of time. But from our last meeting, we've added, I just counted about 7 to 9 different items, and I just got 2 through an email this morning. So we're continuing to add to these items, put values to them, review them with the owner and the architect to make sure that everybody's in agreement.
It sounds like an insurance policy, so to speak, for the unidentified risk. And like you said, as the project goes for along, the risk diminishes for certain items, then you're allowed to put that back in the big bucket, so to speak, lowering the contingencies. Okay, so it's.
That, it is an option, but at this point, we prefer not to do that yet.
There was some verbiage in there as well about a rolling GMP. Is that a standard process, or is that because of the sped up nature of this particular project and trying to fit the time constraints?
I think what that's referring to, when I talked about the multiple bid packages, I can let Jeff speak to that,
Please.
but, you know, as we started out this project, we thought there might be one bid package, but to move things along, scheduling, we were on a very tight schedule. We ended up with bid package 1, bid package 2, and then there'll be a third one. Now, I'm not sure, like on the county jail project, if they had it all done in one bid package, they may have, I don't know that. But is that common, or?
It can go multiple ways. Here, our dates were, our bid packages were close enough, it made more sense to go that fashion.
Yeah.
You know, we bid one package, then soon we're meeting with you guys, and the next package is on the street, so to do that process just made more sense.
Otherwise, we would have lost a lot of time to get it all put in one bid package, so.
Are you still working on VE on bid package 1?
We have brought the bid package 1 players into the VE process.
Okay.
Their scopes of work are not excluded from being evaluated, so they are being involved.
So yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, that was just a few weeks ago anyway, that closed.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Jeff, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Just gonna say, I appreciate you
Yeah.
answering our questions. This is really our first time doing the this type of project. construction
Management at
management
risk. I noticed there was a couple items that hadn't been bid. Had you gotten successful bids for those? I think demo was one of them.
Yeah, we've got bids with those. We're working through them. We feel that we can continue with the process with the bids we had.
Okay.
Further questions or comments on this contract amendment?
Well, I would move to approve contract amendment BP number 2 for the Hutchinson Sports Arena project.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Light?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyrostay Carvalho?
Yes, thank you, Jeff. Next item, please.
Item 7B, consider developers agreement with Monroe Development and final plat for Kissawah West Edition.
Good morning. Sorry. Jenna McCarron, Director of Planning and Development. And before you, I have kind of a two-pronged item. I'll try to go through this rather quickly since in the interest of time. But what we have is a replat of, you can see here, 6 lots that were part of the Kissawah addition. And they were hoping to replat those into a single lot and remove some of the easements and the roadway there that will no longer be needed to service a single lot. The lot will have access onto Monroe Street. Here's kind of the plat there, you can see a little better. Would have access onto Monroe Street. And here it is, it's just a single lot. You can see there. There's a few outstanding items associated with this. One is that the rest of the development will need to have Buckskin Road built. And so we've asked the applicant to enter into a development agreement with the city guaranteeing participation in Buckskin Road at the time that the rest of the subdivision develops. In addition, that this property needs to have sewer access. As the plat was originally designed, the sewer would come from the east, but since those lots are not developed, they're going to access sewer from the north through the Heartland Federal Credit Union property. And so they are still outstanding, getting an easement from Heartland. They are working with them to obtain that easement. The applicant has submitted a signed developer's agreement, and they are here today to answer any questions you might have, as well as me. So my first recommendation would be that you approve the developer's agreement and then also approve the plat contingent upon all utilities being undergrounded and the sewer easement being recorded. And I do have numerous slides I can go through if you want to see them. I'm happy to show them to you.
Jana, I just had one question about Buckskin Road and the guaranteed participation. That wouldn't apply to the current residents along Buckskin on the old road, would it?
You mean south of here?
Yeah.
South of here is not developed.
No, I mean the Buckskin Road that is already there. I mean,
No,
they're
it's
not having any added
No, this
stuff.
would be Buckskin Road as it abuts this plat.
Okay.
Yeah, so because this road's not constructed yet.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Thank
there is
you.
part of Buckskin that's constructed, but this applies to when they build this road.
Okay. Thank you.
I wouldn't mind seeing if you got some additional
Sure.
slides. Not that I want to spend a lot of time, but if you
Sure.
can just move through
So
them.
here's the property. This is kind of looking south. And it's a big field, as you can see. And the applicant wants to build one single-family home on these 6 lots. There's Heartland Credit Union on the left side of the screen.
That's gonna be a big house.
And then across the street, Coronado, which is residential. This is looking from Heartland Credit Union across at the developed residential properties. Yep, that's all I have.
So essentially it's that field south of Heartland's
Yes.
property. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
But there will be a road that needs to be built, and any properties that are part of the, in fact, let me go back to the subdivision, 'cause I don't want to tell you guys wrong.
Because the current Buckskin Road is in the Kisswa addition and it just dead ends.
Yeah,
Mhm.
dead
Yeah.
ends there. Yeah.
Right, so you can see that those lots on the south side of Buckskin here, those aren't developed either. Those would participate because that's their access.
I see.
So when they set up those benefit districts, it's usually everyone who has benefit from the road or the infrastructure is a participant.
So the replatting, as is proposed, that particular piece of property, that 2.5 or 2.3 acres, would not be a participant in the development of Buckskin, is that correct?
No, they would be. That's
They
why we're
would-
having
they
to
would
sign a
be.
developer's agreement.
I'm sorry, they would be.
Yeah, because they do
Okay.
have benefit from that roadway. They're a corner lot. And so it was engineering staff's recommendation, and staff planning supports them as well, that we don't want properties just opting out of subdivisions, thereby, not having to participate in the design of the rest of the subdivision. Because when that subdivision was set up, it was intended that there would be 6 lots helping pay for that road.
And there's no way that that person can go back and replat and bring those other lots back to life, is there?
Well, once they build a house on there, it's gonna be
Yeah.
really difficult.
Okay.
I mean, I don't wanna say there would be no way, but it would be highly improbable.
Well, I was just kind of looking at the corner over there.
Yeah, this is
Have you
gonna
seen
be
the
a
site
large
plan yet?
lot.
Have you seen the site plan?
I have not seen
Not
the site
yet,
plan. We did require them to put a note on the plat regarding the size of accessory buildings and the number, because our regulations don't allow you to have accessory buildings that are larger than your house. Also, you can only have 1 detached garage, 1 carport, and 1 shed. And so this is a very large property.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make sure that the purchaser was aware that he's gonna have limitations on development of this property.
And they were okay with that, obviously.
They were
or
okay
said
with
we-
it.
okay.
Dave, can you speak to what's going there, or? No?
A house, we told you.
Okay. Dave Friend, and you won't believe it, I've got high-powered hearing aids, and I can hardly hear you.
Oh.
back.
Oh, dear.
What are your questions?
Oh, I was just curious what's going there, what your
Well-
plans were.
How this come about?
Yeah.
A gentleman called, and he wants to move from the country into Hutchinson. And she called, and she said, we're looking for a large lot to put a nice home on. They live out, they've got probably a $500,000 layout outside the city of Hutch. And that's what he's going to put on this lot. But they wanted a large lot. They're going to landscape it. There'll probably be 40, 50 trees on there. And I said if I could make it happen and help Hutch, I would help do it. And that's where we're at. It's going to be an asset to the community on Monroe Street. There's no problems with drainage. The ditch is east of it. And it'll probably be 20 years before we ever get to the northwest corner of Kisswa North. We opened up the second phase, and I told Jana she'll be retired and I'll be gone when Buckskin gets opened up.
Before Buckskin gets opened up.
So that's where we're at. It's a good development. It's something good for the town, which we need all the help we can get. But I see nothing wrong with it, and we'll keep it up to par.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Do beautiful work.
Going to happen this year?
Oh, as soon as it's approved, I'll
Okay.
get a permit.
Very
Casey
good.
wouldn't give me a permit the
All
other
right.
day. so
All right.
He'll have. the
It'll
bulldozer-
happen immediately. They,
He'll have the bulldozer
they
after.
want to get into Hutch. He has a good business here, and it's an asset to the community. Let's put it that way.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very seldom you get
Yeah.
to put 6 lots together
Oh,
at a
wow.
bulk.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Dave doesn't know how old I am. I might be with him 20 years from now. Anyway, yes, staff, it does meet the requirements of the subdivision regulations, other than we still need that sewer easement. So I've told them we cannot record the plat until a sewer easement is obtained. And we would have to have 2 motions, one for the developer's agreement and then one for the plat.
And Planning Commission, it looks like voted unanimously
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
in favor.
Are there further questions or a motion on the developers agreement?
I move we accept and approve the developers agreement between the City of Hutchinson and Monroe Development as presented to us by staff.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Blind.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes. Is there a motion on the plat?
I will move to accept the final plat as presented by staff.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Deckent.
Yes.
Inskeep.
Yes.
Dave Light.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes. Next item, please. Thanks, Jana.
Item 7C, consider report of bid opening for 2016 residential street maintenance program.
Good morning. Jeff Peterson, interim Director of Engineering, and I'm presenting the bid report for the 2016 residential street program. Last week, we had 3 bids for the project. This is actually the first of a number of bids that we'll have for the 2016 street programs. This is primarily the residential areas located on the west side of the community and those streets. Of the 3 bids, the low bid was from Circle C Paving and Construction from Goddard, Kansas, in the amount of $474,478.12. The bid was below the engineer's estimate on this one, and though we have not previously worked with Circle C Paving and Construction, we did call some of their references, and for instance, South Hutch has used them years prior, so they get the work done like it needs to be done. So we would recommend, with that respect, that they should go forward. Also, the funds will be coming from the Residential Street Reserve CIP for this project. I should let you know that due to the prices being fairly good, we may change order a couple more streets on, but
Okay.
we'll get there when we kind of go forward as the project gets started. But I just wanted that to be kind of upfront at this point. So, but with that, we would recommend that the bid of $474,478.12 be approved, and the mayor be authorized to sign the contracts with Circle C Paving and Construction. Any questions or on the
Yeah,
project?
Jeff, can you refresh our memories on exactly what's entailed in the fog seal?
The fog
I mean,
seal?
I kind of remember
Sure.
the chip.
The fog seal
seals.
actually just provides a dark surface. It goes on a few of the streets that we would maybe potentially have markings on and things like that.
Okay.
So it doesn't, the regular chip seal doesn't really allow us to do that
Okay.
because it's a lighter color. This just puts the darker color on top.
Okay.
So it's a chip seal with a darker color.
Well,
Is that
it is a
correct?
chip, it's actually a separate
Yeah.
application of the oil. So
After chip sealing and then.
after you
Chip-
get
yeah,
done chip sealing, it
Chip
goes
seal,
on
then
afterwards.
it's fog
Then
seal.
Correct.
overlay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's another seal to those. So for instance, South Monroe Street, and it's hard to see, that kind of goes around the corner, that's fairly high traffic counts, then that would be encompassed in that, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Just falls under something I never thought I'd be discussing when I ran for city council.
No, I know. You're going.
Extra layer of oil, that's what the fog
Yeah.
seal is. Right, is there a motion on this street maintenance?
I move we approve the bid we received from Circle C Paving as presented to us by staff.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Daveline.
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes, and it was nice to get a bid that low for
Yes.
once. It was nice to
It
have
was.
some different
Under the
bids.
insurance.
It was,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's bodes well.
Yes, it does. Next item, please.
Item 7D, consider public art commission contract with Corin Rolstad for Sports Arena Public Art.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm Merrill Dye, the Assistant City Manager. After the public art program was implemented in May of 2015, the city sent out a call for artists for the Sports Arena Public Art. This was a national call for artists residing in the United States. We received 168 applicants. Out of that, we chose 3 top artists who were placed under contract to come up with concept designs. And those designs were screened by the selection panel, which was a blend of folks from the building committee and also the Public Art Design Council and city staff. That selection was made on February 5th and presented to the building committee on February 18th. You saw a presentation by Justin Combs on March 1st that showed you each of the 3 proposals, and you also heard the recommendation from the selection panel when Teresa Preston told you our selection was Corin Rolstad. With that, you directed staff to go ahead and prepare a Public Art Commission contract. So this is the item that you have before you today. This is a project contract, if you will, for $230,000, a contract for Corin Rolstad to go ahead and design the public art. The contract outlines the scope of engagement for the final design, execution of work, installation and final acceptance and title to the work, as well as time and standard of performance, warranties, artist rights, and ownership of work documents and standard legal provisions. Again, this is a $230,000 contract. The entire project will not run over that amount. Corin Rolstad's design fee is included within that $230,000, but it covers all of the costs that the artist will incur, including insurance, shipping, installation, engineering costs, fabrication, so on and so forth. Those payments will be made in 5 increments, starting with the initial payment upon the signing of the contract, and that is for final design and for engineering costs, a progress payment for materials, fabrication, production, and project management, and that would be following the design approval and the issuance of the notice to proceed. Another progress payment when 50% of the work is fabricated and approved by the city, and then a progress payment when 100% of the work is fabricated and approved by the city, ready for shipping and installation, and then a 10% retainage, if you will, as the final payment after the work has been completed, fully installed, and accepted by the city. So staff recommends approval of this Public Art Commission contract. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
As to the payments that are made while fabrication is occurring, there's 2 or 3 in there. So will there be members of the design committee that will see the progress?
Yes. In fact, we will have a selection panel that will oversee this whole project, and Mr. Deridoff and I are working to put together that panel. One of the first things that has to be done is to come up with the final design. If you recall,
Right.
the presentation that Justin showed you on March 1st, there was a part of Corin's proposal that included some artwork in the portals. And the content of that artwork needs to be decided yet. What she had in there was just really a placeholder, and we all understood that when she made the presentation on February 1st. So a selection panel will work with the artist to come up with the final design, and the desire is to come up with something that's sports-oriented, something that honors the legacy of the building. And Corin, this is one of her strengths, is working with panels and committee groups that, to come up with a final design that is what the owner wants and that the community accepts. So that's one of the first steps. But then she will also have to provide progress reports throughout the entire project.
I tell you, Council, you're going to really appreciate meeting Corin. She is an extremely talented lady. She's an engineer. She's an architect. Extremely vivacious lady. She's going to be on site here.
Yes.
We made a good decision in terms of selecting her. So she's top drawer.
Looking forward to it. One quick question. If she retains the copyright, can she replicate this same sculpture somewhere else?
No,
Okay,
but she retains the copyright under federal law.
okay, but she can't reproduce it, okay.
Meryl, I also want to compliment you because this has been quite a process to go through,
Thank
and
you.
you've done an excellent job of managing this process. So it's been terribly interesting to get to this point, and we're there, and you've done an excellent
I
job. So
appreciate
good
that.
work.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing it.
Those that want to participate in maybe what goes on in the portals, can they attend some of the art commission council meetings?
Well, sure. I mean, we're going to
This will be
try to
open,
include
right?
public engagement, but certainly some members from the building committee, some members from the design council, along with staff, and this time we want to include some members of the college as well. We're also going to try to get some input from the NJCAA later this week, and perhaps include members from the community as well, because I know public engagement is important, so there's still that opportunity. But
We can save one invite. I don't know art, so
Yeah.
you don't have to
We won't
invite me.
invite
I'll trust you guys.
All right.
Very good.
Is there a motion on this item?
But
Or
before
any
after,
discussion,
I just
yeah.
wanted to comment, having been at the sports arena yesterday and looking out the windows to where there's going to be the
Mhm.
large lobby,
Yeah.
and thinking about this particular work, and then also just the outside piece. I'm still excited about the appearance
Very much so.
and that it will give.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. And with that, I move that we approve the contract with Bannerworks for the Sports Arena Public Art as presented by staff.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes?
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes,
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes, next item, please.
Item 8, report of city officials.
And we'll start with you, Dave.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
What about you, Dave Line?
Nothing, Mayor.
Okay. Got anything, Steve?
Not today, thank you.
All right. Nancy?
nope.
Wow, that was easy. I have a few things. I just really want to encourage everyone to go out to the NJCAA tournament this week. It will be your last opportunity to see it in the sports arena as we know it. And I do believe that HCC is playing Wednesday if you want to see
2 o'clock.
home team. So 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Hopefully they can make it past that first game. And wanted to make a comment on the rental inspection, which I wish I would have made at the beginning of the meeting when we had Mrs. Julian here commenting on that and the Fourth Amendment issue. When the council considered this ordinance, it was in no way to denigrate the great work of many, probably the majority of our landlords in town. They provide a very needed, valuable service, and they are valued in our community. We certainly need them. It was mainly to address health and safety issues in a number of our rentals and the further deterioration of our rental stock that is deteriorating at a higher rate than our overall housing stock, based on 2 housing studies. Now, I think the thing that sets rentals apart and makes this not a Fourth Amendment issue, which, again, I'm not a constitutional attorney, is that rentals are a business. And just like the state would not allow a restaurant to operate without inspections due to health and safety concerns, we're just asking that the city not allow certain rentals to operate with health and safety concerns. That being said, the state legislature is considering this, not our ordinance per se, but ordinances that allow in internal inspections. I think that's House Bill 2665. And if the state determines, if that does pass, determines that internal inspections shouldn't be allowed, then this ordinance, I don't think, can operate under those restrictions. So we'll just monitor that. Last thing I wanted to talk about was a little bit happier, city seal. And I think that Todd I'm just going to put it up there.
There we go.
We had chosen Rebecca Starkey's design. It was the design that got the second most votes in the community, but the one that we felt might be more amenable to being embossed if it were simplified somewhat. She did add the date and added reference to our salt mine history. So wanted to get the council's input on that and whether we could move forward with turning this into an emboss or just getting your general comments and feedback on that.
Well, it took me a while to figure out that was a cart in the salt mine, but, eventually that sunk in. What happened when you talked with the company that does the embossing? Did they feel that this was something that they could do?
Yes, Rebecca had submitted 2 different designs for her revisions, and I ran both of those by the emboss company, and they
Okay.
felt both were doable,
Okay.
and that we could get it back pretty quickly, actually, in like a week or 2. The only comment they had is that the thin line around the design may not show up as well as it does on just a PDF. So,
Okay.
but
Looks good.
Yeah.
My only comment mirrors Nancy's. I think many of us might recognize that cart having to do with salt, but I doubt that anybody outside of the city, or very few outside of the city, would. And even I struggled. I figured that was probably what it was, but it looked more like a train cart to me than a salt
Well,
cart.
we have railroads.
We do
too.
have
I
railroads.
guess we could make
could
it
work
go
on
either way.
multiple levels.
There we go.
I do know that many times there's a history or a synopsis that goes along with the seal, on the website, kind of explains it when I was researching others.
Yeah.
And so I'd be happy to maybe draft something that work with the designer to kind of draft what it
symbolizes.
what it symbolizes and how it represents our community. I do think that salt is such an important part of our history that I would hope our seal would reflect that in some way. And the original one, I think, had some strata lines. Then we were like, what are those lines up there? So this was an attempt to make it more obvious, but I don't know that it did. Should I go back to her?
I like it.
Which
No,
one?
I don't know that
it's
there's
fine.
anything,
Yeah. I think
salt mining's not a common
Yeah.
thing, and,
Yeah.
and a space
Difficult
capsule,
to-
a Ferris wheel, but I don't know if there's anything that's real common about salt mining that would make anyone
It's hard to
think-
capture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
think
we
So I
can't,
think
we,
she's-
such a
we
good job
can't use,
with.
yeah, we can't use the Morton little girl with the salt, so,
Yeah.
you might, you
Yeah.
might as well.
Might be a few copyright issues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of copyright
That was
issues.
probably one of the few things that might be readily
I know,
recognizable by
I
now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that we need any action, just the general direction of I can ask that she present the vector art or whatever is necessary to send over to our emboss company and get that going.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Great.
Very good.
Sounds good.
All right.
seal.
Thank you for
Okay,
all
excited.
your
Yep.
work
Yeah.
on this.
Oh,
It-
it's One of the more fun things, just in this meeting alone, honestly. Okay, John, what do you have?
I really have nothing to add at this time.
With Mr. Freund's comment, sitting back here, I don't know how the sound is out to the audience, but maybe is it something that we do need to consider?
I think
Okay.
Yeah.
he had some hearing aids
Okay.
that probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
What'd you say?
Exactly, and I can identify with that a
Oh, my
bit.
goodness.
Yeah.
The meetings devolve once we get into the comments section. You really don't have anything, John?
I really don't.
Oh, okay.
I'd happy to answer any questions, whatever, but I did get a text from you telling me that you'd be done at 10:45 today.
Oh,
So I thought I
Yeah.
might not add to that, so.
Look at that.
That's funny. All right. Well, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move to
Second.
adjourn.
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.
Oh, my.